There is a silence that walks on four paws, a silence that does not ask but knows. The cat, as it moves across the floor, is more than muscle and fur. It is a symbol that predates our rational age, a figure conjured not by culture, but by the deep stirrings of the psyche. When it enters the house, it enters the inner sanctum, not only of walls and furniture, but of the soul itself. It does not bark, it does not beg, it merely exists, with a gaze that penetrates through surface and pretense. In that gaze lies a confrontation with the unconscious. The unconscious does not speak in words. It reveals itself in images, instincts, and impulses that seem to rise from nowhere. The cat, with its nocturnal eyes and unpredictable nature, emerges as one of those images. An archetype formed in the depths, unbound by logic, rooted in the mystery of night. It is a living symbol of what lies beyond the control of the ego. In the household, the cat becomes a whisper from those hidden chambers we would rather ignore. It moves without need for permission, as our repressed thoughts do when they surface in dreams. Among these depths lie two powerful forces, the shadow and the anima. The shadow is what we deny, the qualities we push away because they do not conform to who we believe ourselves to be. The cat, who does not apologize for being itself, becomes a living reminder of this. Its indifference to human approval mirrors the independence of our own darker nature. The shadow is not evil, it is merely disowned, and the cat, in its silence, stares into that disowned place without flinching. Then there is the anima, the inner feminine soulism that speaks not through reason but through symbol, intuition, and feeling. The cat, long associated with the moon and mystery, embodies this aspect with an elegance that cannot be commanded. It does not explain itself, it simply is. It curls in corners, appears when least expected, and seems to know before we know. The anima brings emotional depth, connection to instinct, and the capacity for transformation, traits that many find unsettling because they cannot be systematized. In the presence of a cat, one does not rule, one must relate. To have a cat in the house, then, is to allow into the sacred space of order a representative of the unconscious, both the feared shadow and the mysterious anima. The cat reminds us that we are not whole without these neglected pieces. It is a living bridge to the irrational, to the dream, to the symbolic life. Those who love the cat often feel this intuitively. Those who fear it may be fearing what it reflects. And so we must pay attention. For the cat does not live in the house as a pet, but as a symbol. It watches us not as a creature of the world, but as a messenger from the deep. In that gaze is a challenge. Will you dare to see what lies beneath your polished surface? Will you face the shadow and listen to the anima? Or will you turn away, blaming the cat for what is, in truth, your own hidden self? The house, in all its quiet geometry, stands as a symbol of order. Each room, each wall, each carefully chosen object represents the human effort to define, to control, to give shape to existence. But within that sanctuary of structure, when a cat is present, there stirs something that resists the rigidity of form. It does not follow schedules, it does not recognize hierarchy, and it does not yield to discipline. It is not chaos, but it is untamed. And in that it becomes a living echo of those parts of ourselves we have not domesticated. We like to believe that we are rational creatures guided by intention and logic. But that belief is itself a kind of furniture, a surface layer within a deeper, wilder self. Beneath the polite gestures, the fixed identities, and the moral frameworks lies something older: instinct, impulse, imagination, forces that do not ask to be invited, but exist as part of our being. These are the untamed aspects of the self. They do not conform to language or convention. They are the wilderness within the soul, and like the cat, they move in and out of our awareness with quiet autonomy. When the cat lives in the house, it dwells in both realms. It respects no fixed schedule, no absolute commands. It may vanish for hours, only to return and curl itself beside you without explanation. It loves on its own terms. This unpredictability disturbs some, because it reflects a truth we often hide from, that much of who we are cannot be tamed. The cat becomes a mirror, not of our performed identities, but of our forgotten selves, those elements that refuse obedience, that long for solitude, that act without justification. In dreams, the cat may appear as a symbol of mystery or even danger, depending on how the dreamer relates to their inner life. In waking reality, its presence in the home can stir subtle emotions: discomfort, fascination, deep calm, or unease. These are not accidents, they are signals. The untamed self does not knock at the door. It lives already within us, waiting for recognition. When we see the cat's silent defiance or its instinctual grace, we are seeing something that also lives behind our masks. Many seek to train the self into submission, suppressing what they fear or cannot control. But the soul suffers under such tyranny. The cat teaches another way. It suggests not suppression, but coexistence. It shows that instinct and independence can dwell within order without being broken by it. In fact, the house becomes more alive with this wildness present. It is not the enemy of peace, it is the source of depth. To ignore the cat is to ignore the voice of the untamed self. To fear it is to fear one's own vitality. Yet to accept it is to begin a dialogue with what is real, raw, and irreducible within. The cat does not change the house, it changes the one who sees. In that seeing, one begins to remember the parts of themselves that were never meant to be caged. There is something within the cat that refuses to bend. It lives among us, shares our hearth, accepts our offerings of food and shelter, yet remains untouched by the domestication we impose on other animals. It will not heal, it will not fetch, and it will not pretend. This refusal is not rebellion, it is essence. The cat is as it is, and in that unyielding nature it reveals a truth about the psyche, that there are parts of the self which cannot and should not be repressed. Civilization demands order. From the earliest days of society, there has been a great effort to separate the wild from the acceptable, to draw a line between instinct and morality, between impulse and propriety. We suppress what does not fit. We bury desire beneath discipline, and we silence emotion beneath routine. We do this not out of malice, but out of necessity. Yet what is repressed is not erased. It is only hidden, and over time the hidden becomes restless. The cat, in all its autonomy, stands as a symbol of that which cannot be tamed within us. It acts without explanation, comes and goes as it pleases, and often defies all attempts to condition it. This is not disobedience, it is a sacred resistance, an expression of inner sovereignty. In the same way, there are psychic energies that do not obey the will of the conscious mind. They arise from a deeper place, untouched by rules, unconcerned with appearances. They may appear as urges, as dreams, as sudden moods or fantasies. And when we try to suppress them, they do not vanish, they grow stronger in silence. This is where the cat becomes more than a companion. It becomes a mirror. When it stretches across a sunlit floor with perfect indifference, when it turns its back and walks away, it enacts something we have tried to forget. The irreducible, instinctual core of the psyche. It reminds us that not all within must be controlled. Some forces must be accepted as they are, neither judged nor shaped, but allowed to exist. Control is a tool, not a solution. The psyche is not a machine to be operated, but a garden to be tended. In every human soul there are wildflowers that will not grow in straight rows. To try to discipline the whole self is to wage war against one's own vitality. The cat teaches us, without speaking, that freedom within is not a threat to order, it is its balance. Those who are disturbed by the cat often struggle with what it reflects, a self that refuses conformity. And those who love it may, perhaps unknowingly, be honoring that part of themselves which still knows how to move with instinct, to follow inner rhythm, to be at home in contradiction. To live with the cat is to live beside the part of the psyche that answers to no master, and in that presence we are quietly asked, what within you resists control, not from defiance, but from truth? And will you continue to repress it, or will you finally listen? There are those who find in the presence of a cat not comfort, but unease, a subtle tension, a quiet disquiet. They cannot name it, yet they feel it. The cat enters a room and something within them stirs in resistance. This reaction is not about the cat itself, but about what it evokes. The discomfort is not external, it is a whisper from within. For often what we project onto the outer world is merely a reflection of what we have not reconciled in ourselves. The cat does not demand attention, nor does it offer false affection. It does not seek approval, nor does it perform. Its gaze is steady, unblinking, an ancient gaze that seems to see behind appearances, beyond the masks we wear. And herein lies the root of unease. The cat does not judge, yet its very presence invites judgment of ourselves, by ourselves. It becomes a mirror for the hidden, a living symbol of the mystery within that we try so hard to avoid. For many, this mystery is unsettling. It reminds them of the unexamined parts of the psyche, the irrational, the instinctual, the shadowed. In the silence of the cat's company, there is space, and in that space, buried thoughts, forgotten emotions, and unwanted truths may begin to rise. The unease is not with the cat. It is with what the cat allows to emerge. In its refusal to be tamed, in its quiet autonomy, it becomes a living invitation to look inward. And for some, the inner world is not a place they wish to go. Modern life encourages us to define, to control, to categorize. There is little room for mystery, little tolerance for ambiguity. Yet the self is not a fixed entity, it is layered, fluid, and filled with contradictions. The cat, with its blend of stillness and sudden motion, of tenderness and sharp claw, embodies this paradox. It reminds us that the soul, too, is not one thing, but many things. some of which we understand and some of which we fear. Those who feel discomfort in the presence of the cat may be experiencing the stirring of the inner unknown, the parts of the self that have not been named, let alone accepted. The feline presence, calm and watchful, is like a sentinel of the unconscious, and to some that watchfulness feels invasive, not because the cat intrudes, but because it sees. And what it sees is not the persona, not the outer performance, but the deeper, truer self that has been left in shadow. To sit with a cat and feel unease is to receive a message. It is not an accusation, but an invitation to turn inward, to explore what has been hidden, to ask why the quiet company of a creature so at peace with itself should stir so much unrest. The discomfort is not a threat. It is a signpost. It signals that there is work to be done, a reconciliation to begin, not with the cat, but with oneself. There are beings among us who do not belong wholly to the present. They carry within them the weight of myth, the breath of the primordial, the scent of something older than speech. The cat is such a being. It walks not just across floors, but through centuries of human imagination. It does not merely live, it signifies. With every quiet step, it brings into the room something that transcends the visible. It carries instinct, it carries mystery, it carries the ancient patterns that have always dwelled within the human soul. The cat does not operate by the rules of reason. It does not respond to command or explanation. Its actions spring from an intelligence that is pre-verbal, intuitive, and rooted in something far deeper than thought. This is the realm of instinct, not mere reaction, but the raw, undiluted wisdom of the body and spirit. The cat does not ponder whether to stalk, to leap, to vanish. It simply does. And in that immediacy, it embodies a mode of being we have almost forgotten, living from within, not from without. We are taught to mistrust instinct, to replace it with rules, analysis, and control. But instinct is not chaos. It is the original order. It is the rhythm of life before life was named. The cat moves to that rhythm. Its body is poetry without grammar, responding to forces we can sense but not see. And when it is in our presence, we are reminded of what lies beneath our polished surfaces. A current of life that we have silenced but never extinguished. And then there is mystery. The cat does not reveal itself. It withholds. Its silence is not empty. It is full of meaning. It invites but does not explain. It appears suddenly, disappears without cause, and returns on its own terms. It watches from shadows, perches in high places, stares through darkness with eyes that seem to know what we do not. This is not aloofness. It is sacred distance. The cat keeps part of itself beyond reach, and in doing so reminds us of the mystery within ourselves. For we too are not entirely known, even to ourselves. The cat teaches us that this is not a flaw. It is the soul's nature. But most profoundly, the cat embodies the archetypal. Across cultures and ages, it has been revered and feared, associated with gods and witches, death and fertility, guardianship and seduction. It is a figure that recurs in dreams and myths, not by chance, but by necessity. The cat stirs something in the collective memory. It is an ancient symbol, older than doctrine, alive in the psyche, like fire in the coals. When it curls beside us, when it watches us without blinking, it awakens that deep layer within that speaks the language of symbol and image. To live with the cat is to live with a fragment of the eternal. It is to share space with a creature whose every gesture whispers of things forgotten and truths yet to be uncovered. It is not a pet, it is a presence, and in that presence the old energies stir. Instinct, mystery, archetype. These are not luxuries of the mind, they are the roots of being. There are eyes that see without speaking, and in their gaze we feel something we cannot name. The cat watches, not with curiosity alone, but with a stillness that seems to penetrate the veil of appearance. It does not blink in haste, nor does it seek to flatter, it simply watches. And in this quiet, unyielding observation, it becomes something more than an animal. It becomes a mirror that does not reflect the surface, but the hidden strata of our nature that so often go unseen. In the presence of a cat, we are not observed as roles or identities. We are not mother, scholar, merchant, or child. The cat sees beneath such titles. It gazes into the essence, the raw interior of the human presence. There is no flattery in this gaze, no demand for performance. The cat does not ask us to be anything. And yet, in this very absence of expectation, something within us is stirred. The self that lies beneath the self begins to shift, as if awakened by the silence of being seen. We are not used to this kind of seeing. We surround ourselves with distractions, noise, validations, mirrors that flatter or distort. But the cat offers none of these. It watches with the gaze of the unconscious. In its silence, it summons forth what we would often leave buried. A sudden awareness of a hidden motive, a buried feeling, a shadow we thought long forgotten. Not by force, but by presence alone. This observation has a peculiar effect. It disarms the mask, because the cat does not respond to our persona, the version of ourselves we project. It has no interest in artifice. And without that reaction, we are left exposed to ourselves. In that moment, some feel uneasy, even threatened. Others feel strangely at peace, as if they have been recognized in a language older than words. The cat's gaze does not accuse, it reveals. And what it reveals depends not on the cat, but on what lies within us, waiting to be seen. To sit in the presence of a cat and be watched is to be returned to oneself, not the self as idea, but the self as experience. The cat becomes an agent of introspection, not through intention, but through essence. It watches as the unconscious watches, without commentary, without interruption, and in that unbroken attention the walls we build between our outer life and inner truth begin to tremble. Some will avoid the gaze, uncomfortable with what it stirs. Others will find in it a path back to authenticity. For in that watchfulness a door opens, not outward, but inward. And through that door comes memory, instinct, feeling, truth. The kind of truth that does not shout, but whispers. The kind of truth that does not argue, but simply is. The cat teaches us that not all seeing is looking, and not all silence is empty. In its quiet observation, we are given the rarest of gifts, the chance to see ourselves not as we pretend to be, but as we are. The warning does not arrive with claws bared or a hiss in the dark. It does not come from the cat itself, but from what the cat uncovers. The true warning is subtle, almost imperceptible, whispered not from without, but from within. For the cat, in all its quietness and mystery, does not threaten us, it reveals us. It is not the creature we must fear, but the ancient things it stirs in the deep places of the soul. In this way, the cat becomes a living threshold between the known and the unknown, the seen and the hidden. And what it brings to light is not new, it is what we have long chosen to forget. Each of us carries depths within, realms not mapped by intellect or governed by the will. These depths hold what we have exiled, desires we have silenced, fears we dare not name, truths we have dressed in lies. We descend into these waters only in dreams, in crisis, or in the unsettling presence of something that awakens the symbolic. The cat is one such awakener. It is not the warning, it is the signpost, and the place to which it points is not outside our walls, but within them. When the cat enters the house, it moves with ancient awareness. Its body, its gaze, its silence, all are tuned to something older than speech. And so the house, that structure of habit and identity, becomes haunted not by the cat, but by the psyche's buried life. The cat is merely the spark, the flame already burns within. It unsettles routines, not by action, but by simply being, a reminder that something deeper waits beneath our polished surfaces. What makes some uneasy is not the animal itself, but what it brings forward. We fear what we do not understand, and most of all, we fear what we understand too late. The presence of the cat invites reflection before that moment of reckoning. It invites us to look while we still have the chance to do so consciously. It is not an omen of doom, but a messenger of neglected truths. Those who ignore this call risk living only on the surface, where life becomes brittle, dry, and unrooted. The deeper self, denied for too long, will not remain silent. It will find its way, through symptoms, through dreams, or through the sudden gaze of a creature that does not speak, yet knows. To see the cat is to glimpse a fragment of the unknown within. To live with a cat is to live in quiet relationship with mystery, and to feel disturbed by it is to hear the echo of forgotten voices in the soul. The warning then is not to beware the cat, but to beware forgetting oneself. Beware the comfort that turns into sleep, the routine that becomes a prison, the mind that dismisses what the heart still remembers. The cat brings no danger. It brings remembrance. And in that remembrance, the truth returns. Not to punish, but to awaken. So we return, not to the question of the cat, but to the question of ourselves. What we have explored is not the nature of an animal, but the nature of the soul, the layered, symbolic, untamed reality of the human psyche. The cat, in its silence and mystery, has served as a vessel, a symbol, a living reflection of our forgotten depths. It does not demand change, yet it invites it. It does not speak, yet it teaches. And if we are willing to listen, not just with the ears, but with the inner attention that dreams and silence require, we may come to see that the presence of the cat in the house is the presence of the unknown self within the self. This is the true threshold, not the doorway the cat crosses, but the boundary within us that separates the conscious from the unconscious, the known from the hidden. To welcome the cat is to open that boundary. To live with the cat is to live beside the mystery. And in doing so, we may finally begin to remember what we have long tried to forget, that the soul is not a thing to be tamed, but a wilderness to be met with wonder.